Gonna come. I know a day is gonna find you when bells will ring, sweet as things. I know a day is gonna come. I know a day is gonna come.
Hello, welcome. My name is Wendy Demoss. I started this Sacred Sexual Music Festival because I just felt like our attitudes and it just needed to shift. It was at the height of the Me Too movement, the Harvey Weinstein era, and my own personal healing. I felt like I wanted to bring the sacredness, the beauty, and today we have so many wonderful speakers from the festival that's happening, the Sacred Sexual Music Festival.com. It's happening April 2nd and 3rd. And it's all online. We've got speakers, presenters from all around the world, and a few of them are here with me today. Please welcome to begin. I'm so delighted to have Amy Culler. Amy, would you join me? Amy is a relationship and intimacy coach. She's a certified therapist. And you know what really struck me, other than dancing, because Amy's from Vancouver, so we've danced together. But I heard all about it before that. I heard about, are you going to the TED Talk? And Amy delivered just a most dynamic, fabulous TED Talk, one of the best. And yes, I've been just waiting years to get you on here, Amy. So I'm so happy that you're on with us for not only today, but on April 2nd. And yeah, she's really doing some great stuff. She's booked months in advance. So, listen up. She's got something really important to say. Mm-hmm. Okay, next, I would love to introduce you to Sonia.
Hi, Wendy.
Sonia, would you come on? Sonia is a sexual wellness educator. She studied sexuality in cinema. Oh, that would be fascinating. At Concordia University. And looks into sexual therapy and BDSM. So she's always a hit. So
you,
let's start here. Let's start with Amy and Sonia. No, I'm going to bring Will on too. Will.
Oh.
Let me tell you a little bit about Will. He's an amazing singer, you know. Hello, Will. Will is on the same label as Sarah McLachlan. Like, just to give you a sense of the caliber of his beautiful voice. And he's a yogi, health advocate, a podcast host, a musician, as I mentioned, and a dedicated champion of the men's rewild movement. And he's going to address a lot of porn. Porn is, let's talk about that. So the three of you, Amy, let's begin with you. Tell me why you feel and have felt so dedicated to help people in this field.
Oh, gladly. I found myself in my own relationship having the classic intimacy issues and found the avenues to find help were one, therapy, or the other, pills and medical procedures, but neither one of those actually create intimacy or actually help people feel solid with themselves or secure with themselves or each other. So I found the need for a modality that helped people feel confident and comfortable with themselves, personally, sexually, spiritually, as well as allowing them to connect with other people. I believe we need practice being in connection. So I've created modalities to help people practice and play together. So that's my thing. And I help a lot of men with sexual health issues, which is why I started, because there were sexual health issues in my relationship. And so since then I've researched and helped thousands of people over 2 decades. Mm-hmm. How about you, Will?
Yeah, I started teaching.
Could you tell us what made you? Oh,
Would you like me to speak?
Yeah, share what started you. I got
Yeah,
you, Wendy.
so I was teaching like just typical sort of hatha yoga. I was an ambassador for Lululemon. Um, and I realized something was missing from my practice, that you could do as much stretching as you could until you're blue in the face, until you pull your groin. But if you've got blockages in your sexual region, like I did, the down dogs aren't necessarily going to address that. And so then I discovered Kundalini Yoga, and then I discovered Montauk Chia's type of yoga, which is an ancient Taoist form from China. And then I realized, wow, like you can actually breathe into different glands and organs. And they have a practice called testicle and ovarian breathing. And it can help to bring these glands back online, and help to take the shame and the trauma, help to transmute that shame and trauma that some of us store in our root in this culture. So that's sort of my story in a nutshell.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So I'm getting the sense I may be cutting out, but I'm going to invite Tanya to share the same. What started you in this area? What deep inside made you provided the momentum and the impetus?
Well, like Amy and I guess Will, I found that in my own journey, there was something that was lacking out there. Not enough resources, and not enough of what you do, like festivals like this, which I love being part of. And so, in my own journey and exploration, and getting better in touch with my sensuality and my body, I came from a place where, I was very self-conscious about my own sexuality. And now I've come to the other side of my journey. Well, it's obviously always a work in progress, but the other side of the journey, where I feel way better connected to my own body. And I'd like to share that with others and break down some of the taboos that continue to exist in our society, and just be accepting and inclusive of everyone's likes and dislikes, and just, really spread the love for our bodies and our spirituality within our bodies, and specifically, of course, my domain is, the sexual realm, and really educating people, not only on, all affairs sexual, but also, again, just that connection with oneself, and the connection with one's partners. So that's really what drives me, and is the fire behind my passion.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, before I open it up to everybody, just jumping in on different topics, let me bring in Serena Davidson. She's an adult sexuality educator for about 10 years, and she's also a fourth generation professional photographer. And this is a vested interest in NFTs. Now we're hearing about NFTs all over. And she said there is a definite link between NFTs and sexuality. So I'm super eager to hear more about that. Serena, can you tell me, would you share what brought you to speaking more around sexuality? And to begin with that, would you share why you felt so motivated to explore and share and help people heal?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. I'm Serena Davidson, and I was raised as a third generation Jehovah's Witness. So being raised in a really conservative cult where gender roles were very strict, and it was a definite patriarchy, even more so than our dominant paradigm of patriarchy. So being raised in that environment, I really had a ton of shame around sexuality. And I didn't even masturbate until I was in my 20s. But I had a Kundalini Awakening, a spontaneous Kundalini Awakening out of what felt like nowhere. I was fully clothed, and it was this experience I had when I was still a virgin I think I was 20. And it just made me know without a doubt that there was something more than what I'd been told about sex. And it set me on a internal question that probably was part of why I left that religion a couple years later, but also I just didn't have the words for what I'd experienced. And so eventually, over a decade later, I finally found some writing that talked about a description of the kind of lightning bolt that had generated in my body and run out my head. And that kind of experience apparently was something that other people had had. And I found the words Kundalini Awakening for it. And then I started exploring sacred sexuality. And I started learning how to facilitate sacred space. And I mentored with a couple of wonderful crones who are from Bainbridge Island, Terry and Therese at Sacred Groves. And they taught me over a year about how to create sacred space and maintain it and hold a sacred container for deep healing. And after I completed that year of mentorship with them, I decided to go ahead and do virtual calls with women who are interested in exploring sacred sexuality. And that was almost a decade ago. And later, I got certified as an adult sexuality educator with the Our Whole Lives program through the Unitarian Fellowship in Bellingham, Washington. And about a year ago, I started learning about non-fungible tokens, which are the cryptocurrency art method of selling digital collectibles online. So I'll be teaching about that in our Sacred Sexuality Music Festival, which is coming up. And is there anything else I can
thank you.
speak to on that can help
Well,
flesh that out?
I loved that you. Thank you for that. I love that you put the emphasis on sacred sexuality. And that is that's a festival, sexual music festival. So obviously, I feel a deep calling to bring a sacredness to sexuality. So I'm wondering, I would all our panelists about how do you bring sacred sexuality to your practice, to yourself, to your clients? Amy or anyone jump in?
Go ahead, Serena.
Sure. I'd say for me that bringing sacredness in sometimes is really just about slowing down and remembering to get into that really open heart connection. I think, just to keep it really short and sweet for my answer, I'd say a very open heart connection is a real key to beginning in that sacred sex experience.
Nice.
Thank you. Beautiful.
If I
Who
may.
else would like to speak to the sacredness?
Will.
Yes.
Will.
Amy, go ahead.
No, Will.
Or Will?
I believe that sexuality is innately sacred, and maybe we've been pinched off in our sort of matrix culture from that sacredness. So I like to use mantras like I am shameless, I am fearless, I am doubtless before I go into a sacred sexual container, whether it's like a solo self-pleasure practice or a tantric group or something of that nature, or even just doing testicle breathing, as I said before, because we're probably the first people in our lineage who are addressing sexuality head on. It's been so shamed for so long. It's been pinched off from that original sacred nature, right? Like our ancestors, I've been studying my Celtic ancestors, and they would combine spirituality with sexuality. It wasn't this artificial split like we see in our culture. So saying things like, I am shameless, I am fearless, I am doubtless, may the energy I'm sensing from the part of myself that's been brainwashed by the matrix be cleared away, transmuted completely, and returned to source now. Because fear in the present moment is fear in the past, shame, and fear in the future is doubt. So I am shameless, I am fearless, I'm doubtless. And then I do my testicle reading. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy?
I even think about the word sacred. Here I am. I got you. I even think about the word sacred, and what the word sacred actually means is something that's private. And I actually like to bring the word that privacy and privates are a part of our sexuality. That's why they're taboo, because it's private. And what makes something sacred is an actual ritual. And that's why I created the huddle, which is that sound and making that sound together. Because I work with the general public, like real people, you know, the dude, the lawyer, the actor, the electrician. And if I say sacred sexuality and ritual, they start to shut down. But if I say huddle, they get it. You know, it's something that a team does, even when they don't get along. Athletes huddle and suddenly they get along. They know they're going into this space together. We know that we're dropping the outside world and we're coming back to what we're really here to do, which is what athletes do, which is what I think of as what makes it sacred. So that's how I create a sacred space, is I have people do something intimate together, like humming.
Beautiful.
Sonia.
I can throw in a little comment. Yeah, I work with a lot of people that, you know, have experienced some trauma or, you know, maybe more. And then have other workshops like the ones that we'll be doing at the festival, which have a little bit of a kinky side. And it's still quite amazing how, like I was saying earlier, taboo some of these practices or kinks continue to be in our society. And for me, the sacredness is all about the connection and breaking, kind of moving away, especially when we're talking about trauma, moving away from this idea that sexual practice has to involve fornication or penetration. People can really experience some amazing sexual encounters without touch, without even taking your clothes off. And that is something that, you know, has been like wonderful for me to explore. And that's where the sacredness comes in for me, is just being able to connect with your body and the energy that your own body generates, sharing that with other people, oftentimes without even, you know, partaking in like the traditional, you know, practices of what having sex is all about, which is clothes off, you know, penis and vagina. And there you go. That's what sex is all about. And then, oh yes, there has to be this orgasmic ending. Otherwise you're not doing it right. So, you know, that to me is very corporal. And there is an element to experiencing sex and sensuality, which goes beyond our physical body. And it's like a remarkable experience. And, you know, for those that do have, you know, trauma, where even to be touched or, you know, to partake in those quote unquote more like traditional ways of viewing sex, to have this alternative is quite mind blowing in some cases with some of the people that I've worked with.
I love that, if I may add. I love that. I really do. There's so many people I know who are traumatized just by being naked in public or with their
Yeah.
partner. So you got to start someplace to share that energy, even clothed. Yeah.
Okay, to those who are listening and viewing these amazing presenters, I'm in Mexico, so I may cut out. So I've asked Amy that if I do, please take over. So, Amy, if you've been doing great, thank you. And I would love to open up more about, because you all are talking about it to some degree, if you can hear me, is if you could open up a bit more to how you ensure your own health around your own sexuality. How do you ensure your own health so that when working with clients, that you bring your most beautiful, your most integrity, the best, the greatest integrity to your pure you, and what are your highest vision self to your clients?
Will, you're leading.
Who would
Go.
like to jump in? Anyone?
I heard that, what do we do, sort of like our good daily habits? What do we do to, ensure that we can really show up in our highest vibration when we're doing this work? And for me, I have kind of three pillars. My first pillar is superfood nutrition and detoxification. Sexual kung fu is my second pillar, so sexual transmutation practices that I do every day, and semen retention. I used to, be addicted to ejaculation and addicted to porn. And my teacher, Montauk Chia, taught me that, he says you're born with 5,000 ejaculations, then you die. I think that's just a metaphor. But basically, I experimented with lengthening the periods between ejaculations. And I was like, whoa, I feel so much more juicy and alive and happy to be in my body when I'm not ejaculating, all over the place. So now I ejaculate like maybe once a month, once every few months, and I have so much more energy. And to any men listening, I would only recommend doing semen retention for long periods like that if you have a practice such as Kundalini Yoga or sexual kung fu, to actually transmute some of that energy from the gonads, from the prostate up into the rest of your system. So sex kung fu, superfood nutrition and detox, and semen retention. And then I have a daily practice of breath work. My breathwork teacher, his name is Edward Dangerfield, and he's a great British fellow who basically taught me a technique called conscious connected breathing. And all you do is you just lie on the ground for 20 minutes to 45 minutes every day, and you simply just take a deep breath and then exhale. So you're inhaling deeply and then exhaling fully. And you literally just do that for 45 minutes. And he encourages you to breathe into your roots. Really breathe down into your pelvic bowl. I can hear a little.
What are you doing at meeting?
I can hear a bit of feedback, but I guess, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So you basically just breathe into your roots, and he does something like, he does certain adjustments. One of them is he'll lift up your legs, and then he'll put his knee in the perineum, if you're a male. And because a lot of men are disconnected from their roots, and he just gets you to breathe into your perineum, which in Chinese medicine we call the $1 million point, because it's the nucleus, it's the starting point of your endocrine system in classical Chinese medicine. And you literally just breathe into his knee so that your perineum bulges. And it's a really powerful practice, that breath combined with the focus on your $1 million point to reconnecting to your root. And I find that the practices of sexual transmutation and semen retention are so powerful, even more so for me than Kundalini Yoga, because it's so earthy, it's so grounding. It really brings you back into your body and your glandular system. One of my teachers says the world doesn't need more balloons. The world needs more grounded men and women. And one of my other meditation teachers, she's like, the foundation of any meditation or spiritual practice is to be here now, to really be feeling juicy in your body in the here and now as you are. So that's kind of my practice, it's the breath work combined with superfoods and detoxification from pesticides like glyphosate. There's a compound that I use called Shilajit, which is from the Himalayan mountains. And it's been shown, it's been shown in clinical studies to actually leach pesticides out of the system, which kind of screw with our endocrine system. So it leaches those out through the urine and the feces. And it's been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. And in English, it basically translates into the word or the term destroyer of weakness.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Shilajit was like taking electricity for me.
Yes. Yeah, it's so powerful. I take a little bit every morning.
Can I speak to what you were saying? May I?
Yes.
Can I ask, you were saying you learned from Montauk Chia. Was he your teacher?
Yes. So over the last 2 years, for the first time ever, Montauk Chia has been teaching people on Zoom. So I was it was the first time he was offering credit. So I actually studied with him and one of his senior Universal Healing Down instructors, Lauren Johnson, who's amazing.
I know Lauren
And
Johnson.
I was able to get certified as a junior, I would say, a beginner healing Down instructor under Montauk Chia and Lauren Johnson. Because of the world shutdown, I didn't have to go to Thailand. So I was really grateful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And he's
That's
like
awesome.
5 or he's almost he's in his mid 80s. I love him because he's one of the few gurus, grandmasters who actually really I see him really living his teachings. Like, he does semen retention. He eats really healthy.
He's
He's very
amazing.
productive. He's written hundreds of books. So it's really cool to have a teacher who's so wise and old. Like, he's an older man, but
He's
he's still
amazing.
he actually literally like will like show us how to have full body orgasms and brain orgasms right there. You know, he's not afraid to just be like, okay, now we focus on our pineal, and and he literally has an orgasm in front of us. I love him.
I want to say that while you were talking about semen retention, because I'm me, I'm always aware of the relationship between food and sex, and it entertains me so much. So I think it's really interesting that intermittent fasting is huge, as so is semen retention. And the way that you were talking about, like, oh my God, I have all this energy. It's the same with intermittent fasting.
Oh yes.
It's like, wow, the less I eat, the more energy I have. So I just thought that was humorous and wanted to add that.
I think
You were
that's
talking about that, like the energy, like that. What did you call it? I call it the lower light bulb,
yes, the $1 million point.
the
Yeah,
$1 million point. I call it the lower light bulb.
I like that. Oh, I think Amy's cut out. But
Oh.
yeah,
How dare?
oh, you're back. You're back.
Oh, can I borrow that wooden spoon?
Yeah, it's my favorite one. So, but I talk about the lower light bulb and keeping your lower light bulb lit, which is what she was talking about. What's our sexual practice? This is my whole sexual practice is keeping my lower light bulb lit. And what I find is that most people, like you were talking about, will have a sadness that they hold. And you were talking about that too, Sonia. Like, there's a sadness that people hold. And you were a Jehovah's Witnesses, Serena. I've worked with lots of people who've left religious cults, even just religions, and have a shame, a sadness that sits in their lower. So whenever they have a thought, this is what it looks like to me. I'm sharing it with you, Will, because you'll get it. When people have an erotic thought, their head lights up. It's like, and then I see this, and it's like this gray poof comes out of the bottom of them. And instead, what I ask people to do is to go, and then go, use that juicy energy to light up their lower light bulb, because then you own it all day. Every sexy thought is to light up your lower light bulb. And I can literally go to the grocery store and go, pew, pew, pew. So it's how I control my energy. And it's, I just keep filling it and keep filling it and keep filling it. Sort of like you were talking about with semen retention. And what I find a lot of women do is, because of their love for the gaze of others, wanting to get attention, that's what that giving that energy away is. Instead of receiving the gaze from others, when I get a gaze from others, I literally go, and fill my own tank. I don't give it back like, ooh, it's not theirs. They gave it to me. I'm keeping it.
I love you. I love everything you're saying. That resonates.
And you were talking about be here now. So since I've got you, and I want everybody to show up for the Sacred Sexual Music Festival on April 2nd and 3rd, because we're taking this so deep. But I want to share, I'm going to share it because you're here. So my practice with that huddle, and this is what I do all day, every day, is I go, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm willing. And it's not a positive message. It's an affirmation that your brain can always accept. Because you can do that even the most dangerous of situations. And I have clients who've done it in an MRI machine, and they're like, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm willing. So it allows you to express your feelings, your emotions, the intensity that you're having in the moment, and still be here and now and willing to do whatever the heck it is, even if it's be here or, be in the experience and to share it. Hello, Wendy, you're back. So I really wanted to share that, Will. I loved what you were saying.
Thank you.
I have one more about the glandular system. I love that. Sexuality is your glandular system. Your glandular system controls all of your hormones. Your glandular system responds to shame and embarrassment. Your glandular system is what remembers that shame and embarrassment. And that's the thing that reminds you, because it holds the pheromone.
Wow.
True that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Wendy, you were about to say, sorry. Were you going to say?
I missed a bunch, so I did. Serena, did you offer your your method of making sure you bring your highest Serena to your
Serena and
clients?
Sonia still get
did
to
you
add.
talk about that? 'Cause my Wi-Fi cut out.
Welcome back, Wendy.
Okay, please, would you kindly, Sonia and Serena, who wants to go first?
Go ahead,
I'm game
Serena.
for
Thank
Sonia to
you.
go if you're up for it.
I'll be
We're
better
both
on the
like, no,
fest.
you go ahead.
Yeah.
I can go either way.
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. Ah, such a beautiful question. I'm really glad you asked. And I'm not sure I've really thought about it directly like that exactly, although I'd say that, the first thing that came to mind was just self-care, being responsible in my own integrity for how I care for myself all the time, every day, and making sure that I'm always working with clients in a lot of clarity, transparency, and consent, and helping them to understand that process right from the beginning so that they always understand that they need to be fully informed before saying yes or no, and that it maybe isn't a yes, maybe means they need more time. And so those kind of basic foundational communication pieces, as well as just taking time for what I like to do is take about, whatever amount of time I need, but maybe an hour before a client session, and take like half an hour between clients to really reset myself and to let the last conversation and client experience go and really ground into my own space and make a bubble of time and space for the energy to go completely toward that previous client and to shift and be ready to receive that next client where they are. So those are some of the things that come to mind for me when I'm asked that question. And another piece of really being in my integrity in my sexuality work is having conversations with other professional sexuality teachers and continuing to have conversations like this about how are you maintaining, what is it you're struggling with, just having colleague connections and really having that mutual support.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Sonia?
Thank
Well,
you.
I guess it
Thank
helps
you. All
that
that's so important. So important.
I guess for me, it helps that I sell sex toys because I usually have to try them out. And so that's a good way to keep on top of your body and your sexuality. But in all seriousness, it does help in the sense that, because of the work that I do, I do need to spend that time, those solo sessions, as I like to call them. I do need to spend that time, whether, it might be business driven for, product quality control or whatever. But in doing so, yeah, it really asks me to set aside that time for myself, to be in my own body, to be in my own skin, and explore on the regular. I think what I've noticed with some of the people I've worked with, and I predominantly work with women, but men as well, and married couples, we kind of get into this pattern, and sex sort of gets put on the back burner. And I look at sex as health, just like our mind, body, soul. There's sexual health and sexual wellness as well, but it sort of with family, kids, work, house, whatever, it sort of is the first to get put on the back burner, unfortunately. And so I think in my own life, keeping it on the forefront and making sure that I'm staying connected to my own body and my own sensuality, and making sure that I'm exploring on the regular, whether it's something to do with the body itself, or new techniques. Recently got into shibari, which is Japanese rope play, and that's helped in my own relationships with power dynamics, which is one of the most. I'm so passionate about power dynamics and how much it can release for both partners or all partners involved. And so, bringing in, especially when it's something like ancient that's been done in other parts of the world for so long, and, incorporating that into our own Western society and Western way of doing things. It's something that it just makes me so happy. So yeah, just kind of keeping on top of like different types of techniques from around the world. I mean, I've already learned so much from you guys. I've been kind of making notes as you've been speaking of stuff that I want to look up after we're done here. So yeah.
I'd love to ask you a question, Sonia.
Sure.
How does shibari help you? And well, I heard you say that shibari helps you be more aware of power dynamics, and I was wondering, how does that awareness inform your ability to hold integrity with your clients? I can totally see how that can connect, but I'm wondering how you might put it.
Well, with the integrity, I guess, partaking in it myself, I feel a lot more connected, and I feel like, you can kind of understand when some of my clients, talk to me about how they're interested in BDSM, and, maybe they've gotten spanked or something at a party, and, they really enjoyed it, and they're inquisitive about it, but want to also do it in a safe space. So I suppose, finding my own partners that I trust, and, build a foundation of respect and especially trust when you're looking at power dynamics, and stuff like BDSM, that I can better advise or cater to my clients. And I feel like, yeah, for me, kind of practicing myself puts me in a situation where I can understand what their needs are, and so sometimes they don't even really need to communicate it to me. I had a new client that didn't even really know what she wanted, but knew that the way that she's been having sex is not satisfying or gratifying her. And I kind of was like, okay, I think I kind of totally get where you're coming from, because she didn't even really know how to express what she wanted. And so it allows me to also provide certain prompts, which, when people are getting new into this sort of realm, they might not even necessarily know what it is they're looking for, have a term or a definition, or what have you. So yeah, I think there's definitely something that I gain by practicing myself in my own personal life.
I love what you said about that they don't even know what they want, because I find that to be with most people. As I say, you don't actually know what you want. If you've never tasted pepperoni pizza, you don't know what you're missing, and you wouldn't know what to order.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good metaphor.
Food and sex.
Totally. So many good food and sex metaphors.
And what I love about the shibari that you were sharing, and like to take beyond what you were saying, in my experience of people like you when they experience it, is that it's very hard in our day to actually surrender. Like Will was talking about, surrendering to that here, now, and willing is so hard. So when you're practicing shibari, whether you're receiving it or doing it, it's that complete presence and fully surrender. You are responsible for somebody else's body. You are giving yourself in trust to somebody else. And I think that is also nice.
Yes, and just not only shibari, but that type of
Yes.
touch, even you're right in terms of the here and now. You're really, I mean, we'll just use shibari as an example, but you're really kind of like, so the dom, if you will, who is doing the tying, is just in this concentration, because some of the knots can get pretty complicated, especially when you start looking at like suspension. And then the receiver, just to feel the rope along the skin, it just, all of the nerve endings, and it's funny because it could be in the most, like, in your elbow, like in a spot that most people would not even think is erogenous, but just to have that rope glide across your skin in and of itself is, just is so titillating. And again, you're not even touching like any of those sexual erogenous areas. So yeah, just the whole practice of tying, again, that's just an example. I in my workshops, part of the workshop that I'll be giving, we'll be discussing, spanking and that type of impact play. Just, yeah, kind of, again, to what you and Will were saying, there's the wooden spoon I want to borrow. It really, asks to be here and now and in the present, and just, yeah, focus on kind of those little parts. It's, yeah, different realm for sure than, as I was saying earlier, like the typical sex that people think we're supposed to have.
Right. That's why I was saying I want to rename sex pleasure, because then we'll all have more of it. Let's go have some pleasure. Yes.
Perfect, Amy. Yes.
Right.
And Sonia, what you're talking about, what we're all talking about right now, is how part of what Wendy was asking about, how we hold our integrity as individuals while we're holding space for others as sex educators and healers. I think that what you're speaking to is really all of us are people who have adventured in sexuality, who have explored and learned and stretched ourselves in these growing areas. That part of the integrity is that we've done this work ourselves first, that we're in our integrity because we're on the healing path, and that healers who are facing their shadows, facing their own work and doing their everyday work to be in their strength and in their pleasure is the only thing that could make sense for adult sexuality educators to teach others. If we're not in our space that we're trying to help others create, if we're not, if we are feeling a ton of shame around our sexuality and we are looking for ways to heal that, we don't have to be 100% healed before we help others along the path either. We just need to be able to be on that path ahead, maybe a step or two or a few ahead, and help others see the light of the guidance towards where you can be in a pleasurable, not necessarily 100% shameless, because as Brene Brown says, if you don't have some shame, you're a psychopath. But to be free of shame to the point where we can really, really have the pleasure that is our birthright, that we were born with, and to clear out all the stories of religion and family and society, culture, wherever that's coming from, that blocks us from being able to access just the innate joy in our bodies that manifests physically as pleasure.
Oh, nicely said.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm back.
You're
Yes,
back.
welcome back.
Wendy.
So good to see your face
You know what
again.
I had to do? What I've been hearing has been just amazing. I'm so sorry I
Relocated.
missed some of it, but I had to run from my hotel to the local coffee shop with better Wi-Fi. So
There's
I'm
something
in-
about coffee and internet.
I'm in I'm in Mexico. It's a beautiful area in Mexico, and yes, and this is the guaranteed great Wi-Fi here at this beautiful coffee shop. Art Coffee, it's called. Wish you were all
You
here.
look like you're in like a stairwell in a corner.
I am.
Like trying to
I'm
get,
in my
like,
little
best
corner.
reception.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love the real life,
Yeah.
visceral digital nomad reality of it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Here it is. These are beautiful. Oh, they're not in here right now, but anyway,
They're
here,
beautiful.
just give you a little.
Oh, very nice.
This is
Oh, Mexico. Miss you.
Lovely.
Oh,
so.
beautiful.
So I'm just loving what you're saying, and I'm eager to hear it all when I get the whole recording. And but here's the next. I'd love your answers about really nourishing and nurturing yourselves, and how you keep yourself in alignment with your highest self. And I wonder if we have time, if you would be open to just opening a conversation around porn. Did anybody mention that? How much have
I'll
we
start
talked
that
about
one,
it?
if I may.
Okay, please. Okay,
Because I
please.
wanted to talk about how you were just talking about shame, and I want to share in my book, The Huddle. I mean, it's a super thin book, but I
Okay.
talk about porn and what it triggers in the brain responsibly, coming back to the glandular system. Embarrassment and shame cause an actual glandular response, cause a hormonal response. And and I wanted to say that every single human being has some embarrassment or shame around sex, even if it's just that they farted, letting you know. It's part of our innate nature, sort of like it's our human innate nature. Loneliness is built into our human innate nature, just letting you know. So no amount of sex or relationship will ever actually quell that inner loneliness. And also with that shame. So our job is to have a practice to manage our embarrassment and our shame in those situations. So porn brings that up. What it does is it's intense images going through the brain into the optic nerve, which is connected to the brain. So it's actually sending a brain signal of trauma. And what I explain to guys, because that's who I hear from all day, is the reason that they're having hard times in relationship is because porn is actually, they're masturbating to rape scenes and then wondering why they can't make love to a person they actually care about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see it. And the way that I explain it to guys is the way when we watch violent movies, it's like the violence has to keep intensifying, which is why I can't, and I'm imagining Will probably can't, like watch seriously violent movies, or maybe you can turn into that dude side of yourself. But it's like, it's too much for me. I can't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. And the stakes have to keep going up because our intensity, we numb to it. And what I say to guys is, do you really want to be numb to sex? I mean, it's bad enough that we're just shoving food in our mouth and we're numb to the flavor of that. Is it good? I don't know. Just eating it. But do you really want to be numb to your sex? So that's when it's like, oh. So yeah, porn actually wires the brain directly to the dick. Do not stop at the heart. Do not stop at the fingers. Do not explore. So interrupting that wiring confuses them. It confuses people because they think that their sexuality is attached to what they're fantasizing about. Mm-hmm. So just that explanation alone helps a lot of people. And the science behind all of that explanation is in my book, The Huddle.
Nice.
That's awesome. You put that in a way that I haven't heard anyone else say it before, Amy. That was great. Do you really want to be numb to your sexuality? That is just beautiful.
And usually when guys are looking at porn, they're not doing it to practice semen retention. They're doing it to get off, right? So not only are they kind of frying their dopamine receptors and associating sex with trauma, they're also depleting their glandular system, which makes it harder to feel juicy when you're with your wife or your girlfriend because you have literally no potency in your balls to rely upon or to source from. So it's almost like cocaine. It's like it's depleting. It's like a quick fix in the moment, and then it depletes you over time.
I call it the fast food that leaves you hangrier.
Yes. That's so true.
Yep.
As an intermediary bridge for some of my clients who are really addicted to porn and they just can't not watch it, I'll get them to do what Joseph Kramer calls porn yoga. So I get them to stand up. I get them to make it a ceremony because shaman Wendy Mandy says anything done outside of ceremony, including sexuality, is not good for humans. So I get them to try to bring a vibration of gratitude into the erotica experience. Choose something that's not rapey, choose some higher frequency erotica to watch. Put your screen up higher so that you can dance and move, one hand on your manhood, other hand circulating the energy, and then do your best to not ejaculate each time. So you're actually using it as a gratitude ritual experience where you're blessing the erotica actors for this experience, and you're not ejaculating if you can do your best not to. So you're actually using it as sort of a bridge between porn to complete self-sensory system mastery.
Oh, that's good.
Wow. Wow.
I wanted to, I,
A
I
beautiful
wanted
way.
to
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to share an experience. Actually, after one of the festivals, Wendy, one of your festivals that we did at St. James in Vancouver, an in-person one. So it must have been the last one, I suppose, before we went online for the pandemic. I had a young gentleman approach me, and he was just like, he was young, probably I would say early 20s, and he was having, problem like issues in the bedroom whenever he was with a girl or a woman. He just couldn't, he had erectile issues, and just in the 10-minute conversation I had with him there after my workshop at your festival, he sort of confided in me that, he had been watching pornography from a very young age, and that he recognized that is part of the equation as to why, he's having issues sexually in the bedroom. That was kind of like a pivotal moment for myself, where I was like, yeah, like, there's this sort of epidemic with our culture now, where pornography is so accessible. I mean, you just need an internet connection. The days of like watching scrambled porn on cable TV channel 104 trying to make out what's going on, but back in the day, or like watching a rated R Basic Instinct movie and just like rewinding that scene where, Sharon Stone sort of opens her legs, and, those days don't exist anymore. And, it gets, kids are like, 12, 13-year-old boys, specifically, I think it's amongst the males there. It's just so accessible. And so even before they know what their penis is all about, and what sex is all about, they can watch porn, and it's just so accessible. And again, it's those days of like finding, your dad's porn mag under the mattress, like those really don't exist anymore. And so I think it's something that we need to address as educators, and within our own like general society. We need to address how that's been shifted. The access to pornography has shifted in the last 20 years or so, and therefore, of course, it's going to change the experience that we're going to have, not only with media like porn, but also what we're doing in the bedroom.
Thank you. That's so powerful. Serena, were you going to add to that?
Oh yeah, I was. If now's a good time.
Yep,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just wanted to touch in because Sonia has brought up both BDSM and shibari, the beautiful rope tying, kinky pleasure that a lot of people enjoy, as well as we're talking about porn now and how it can be, I think a good word is destructive to the types of goals that we really have for our sex lives. But also, porn isn't just like 100% bad, just like shame isn't 100% bad. I think because of our, I come from this really black and white, patriarchal culture. So I'm always like, okay, let's just present that while these things have problems, they're not 100% bad. They're actually beneficial uses of pornography. There are beneficial uses of shame. You know, we all need a little shame to keep us from doing the things that are 100% shameless, right? But yeah, I just wanted to presence that there are a lot of beautiful things that happen with things that are called pornography, and that it's really all of us finding the balance and talking about how our society is so out of balance. How do we come back into alignment with something that's really going to take us to our goals instead of keeping us from them when we think that we're getting a taste of what we want, like porn is so good at doing. It gives you this instant access almost to something that's titillating and exciting. And it can also be something that educates in the right places. And if you've ever checked out Make Love Not Porn, it's really a cool project, and it's a website where real couples are having sex. So technically it's porn still, but they're making love and they're having real sex, and they're showing you about real relationships, including some consent conversations, which is really cool.
Can I
Amy,
share?
are you?
Yeah, I'm dying to share this piece. In
Yeah.
my work, I'm not against porn. In my work, I've actually trained porn actors how to get hard, how to control, how to ejaculate on cue, how to literally perform properly for the camera. And alternatively, those same guys have come back to me and said, now I'm in a relationship. How do I do relational sex? Because they're very different things. Even those guys are going, porn is not sex, porn is not intimacy. How do I do this with my partner? So I've worked with both men and women who are porn performers.
Wow.
And it's not a shame. And I've also worked with 10-year-old and 13-year-old boys who are having porn issues, and their mothers have called me and said, can you talk to my son?
I'm so glad you are there, Amy, for, you know, for your, what you're offering. Thank
Me
you.
too.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
Will, did you have something else, Will, to say?
Something similar to Amy, like I've been using Pornhub as a platform to share things like testicle breathing, or how to become multi-orgasmic, or how to separate orgasm from ejaculation, or red light therapy on the balls to increase testosterone production. So what I've done is I used to, do Facebook advertising, but I would keep getting kicked off, even if it was a very sort of vanilla advertisement. They're just so strict with sexuality in advertising online. So I thought, how can I get the word out about what I teach? And I thought, I'll just put some instructionals on Pornhub because they don't censor nudity.
Fucking brilliant.
So I literally just have clips. Like, I did a ball cupping ritual with me and my buddy Brian. We did some cold plunging. We filmed the whole thing to encourage men, because in ancient cultures, and still in many cultures yet to be contacted by the West, in certain tribes, they actually the men will cup each other's nude scrotal sacs and say, I see you, bro, as a form of greeting. Because usually they're completely naked except for a little penis cone called a koteka in many cultures in Africa, for example. And it's just really cool because we get to showcase these different ways that men can relate to each other outside the matrix system without any censorship. And a lot of guys will contact me for one-on-one trainings, and I'll say, how did you discover my work? And they'll say, to be quite honest, I typed in sexual kung fu tantra on Pornhub and you popped up cupping your buddy's balls.
I think we should start greeting each other like that.
Oh, yeah.
All of us.
I see you.
Women will walk up in boobs. I see you.
I see you.
I'm gonna count on that, Amy, when I see you next.
I'm in.
And, you've all been amazing, marvelous people with so much knowledge and so much heart, so much beautiful heart in what you bring. And to me, that is so important. And look, everyone, I mean, this is just a smidgen of what's happening at the festival. This kind of information, this vibration, these beautiful beings. Thank you all so much for being a part of this gathering and sharing of yourselves, your information, your beautiful hearts. Folks, scoot on down to sacredsexualmusicfestival.com. Join with us. There'll be opportunities to ask questions privately, publicly, whatever you feel comfortable, because it's all meant to be a safe, heartful place. So please join us April 2nd and 3rd, the Sacred Sexual Music Festival. Again, Will, Amy, Sonia, Serena. Shall we go quickly? Tell people how they can contact you. Will, how can
Yes.
people?
Just head over to willblunderfield.ca, and I've got my sacred music, and I've got my different tantric offerings there. So yeah, check it out, willblunderfield.ca.
Amy?
Or you can find my book on Amazon. I'm easy to find.
Sonia?
You can email me at partiesbysoniab@gmail.com.
Serena?
You can find me on Twitter at NFT Serena, as well as in my email, which is nftsanctuaryart@gmail.com.
Beautiful.
And I'm also on Instagram at Serena Davidson.
Wonderful. And also, if you check the website, there's a short profile that just touches on what these beautiful presenters are offering and their contact info.
And you
Again,
can find us all at the Sexual Music Festival.
yes.
Mhm.
Yes. April 2nd and 3rd. Thank you all so much again. Folks, hope you'll join us. It's going to be
Thank you,
magical.
See you
Bye-bye all.
soon.
Thank
Mwah.
you.
Bye.
Have a beautiful
Bye.
day.